You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Doing It for the Exposure, the show that just needs someone to play a few tunes. I'm your host, Mannequin Blue, and today's special guest is singer-songwriter Ciara Moran.
Hi Katie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, yep.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about, because you're a singer-songwriter, and I think you're probably the first singer-songwriter that we've had on the show. So do you want to talk a bit about what you do?
Well, thanks very much, Katie. Yeah, that's a big privilege to be on this show today. Basically, I am currently recording an EP. I've got 4 tracks done and I've 2 more to songs I have written over the past 8 years maybe. I've compiled 16 songs, but I've just had the money to record 6. They're basically themed about, there's some stuff about bereavement, there's some stuff about the current modern society we're living in, there's some stuff about mental health. So I think there's something for everybody in some of the work, and it'd be interesting to see when I put it out there, you know, what the feedback is like.
Yeah, absolutely. And what style of music would you consider yourself?
I've many influences. I trained classically under Veronica Dunn for a few years, and then also I went to the Ballyfermot Rock School. Then I did BIM, so I have a number of influences, but I would say it's very singer-songwriter. The song Open Up These Eyes is kind of stripped back. It's kind of a little bit like, people have said it sounds a little bit like, it's kind of a little bit like, people have said it sounds a little bit like influenced by Kate Bush, who actually is probably one of my favourite artists. I like the quirkiness in her voice. And then, of course, she also had that like operatic influence. And it's kind of soulful, and yeah, I kind of sing from the heart. Yeah, I'd say it's kind of soulful, bluesy, singer-songwriter, bit of rock influence, bit of classical, bit of everything really.
Brilliant. That's great. And you said, you know, your songs are, they touch on different themes, so like bereavement and that kind of thing. Where would you say you get your biggest inspiration from?
I think my biggest inspiration in doing anything creative is probably from my personal experience, and from my experience of different experiences which have happened to me and different emotions which occur. So if something happens and it affects me a lot, if something happens and it affects me a lot, it has an impact on me, I will write about it. And then sometimes I've just used creating music to cope with sometimes dark times. Open Up These Eyes came from a time that I was going through depression quite badly, and it's about 2 different sides of the human psyche, like the shadow self and the repressed parts of the human psyche, which everybody kind of has, and it just explains it very well. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, because I think there is a lot of mental health issues out there, especially at the moment in this current climate. But I try to I don't want the music to come across too dark. I try to make the melodies catchy. Losing You then starts off kind of, it's all about loss. And, you know, I lost my dad when I was younger as a 12-year-old. And it is about childhood bereavement. Upheaval came. I took so much for granted. I left the world enchanted. The seed that had been planted found anew. So it's just about a child who loses a parent and how they struggle to cope with how every loss that they encounter throughout life, because we're always losing things in relationships or people, we're always moving on, we're always transitioning, we're always losing parts of ourselves, and every 7 years we change, so we're always developing and evolving. And you know, it's just kind of conveying the emotion of loss. Then the Become Our Own Thief song, that was just about a relationship that I was in that was very toxic, and it's also about how you're influenced by other people and how they can maybe make you become your own worst enemy. And it's just about being your own worst enemy, but I decided to phrase it a bit differently, become our own thief. So I recorded that. I recorded that with Terry Merrick, and Terry did the music on that with me as well. So we put that down as a co-write. Then Smash the Glass, I worked with Terry Merrick on that as well. That is about how everything has become very disposable today in our society. Like, we're all kind of, I think it's hit on it today, how we're all in this bubble, and suddenly COVID-19 came and we lost so much. And it's like, smash the glass, 1,000 pieces fall. What's left is one of us inside trying to stay alive. And also at the bridge part, maybe it's all a lie, we play the part. Like, it talks about how everything is not real, nothing is ever as it seems. And I think it's an honest song, and kind of reflective of what we're going through at the moment. And then there's another song about Broken Illusion I've yet to record, and is about a relationship, but you know, the themes about everything being kind of like false persona, just the thing that everything is kind of a false persona, nothing is totally real. And yeah, that's kind of the theme of the music. So I've another 2 songs to record for that, and then I'll be kind of finished with it. So hopefully people like it, or get some kind of a following online, or something.
Yeah, definitely. No, you've got some really, really strong themes in there. And it's always really interesting to hear, because like when you're listening to a singer-songwriter, you're listening to the lyrics, people tend to sometimes put their own meanings onto the songs, and they say, oh, I think it means this, I think it means that. But it's always great to hear what the actual creator was feeling at the time. It's amazing that you can have so many different, you know, someone will hear something and they hear something completely different, but it's great hearing your personal experience of it.
Thanks so much, Katie. Yeah, sometimes you have to be careful as well if you over-explain it, because art should be open to interpretation the whole time, and everybody will see something different. I mean, I might see childhood bereavement in somebody, and somebody else has said to me, oh, this reminded me of Unrequited Love. So, you know, that's what it means to them.
Yeah, and it is a form of grief. Like, it doesn't matter really what it is. It's a form of grief. You know, unrequited love is a form of grief, or ending a relationship, or childhood bereavement. Like, you still go through a really tough time with it, you know?
Yeah, but I think from a lot of tough experiences, great art is often created. You know, you can get a lot of inspiration.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's always fascinating to see as well how different people cope. So, you know, like yourself, you would, you know, you put it into your music, another person might paint something or sculpt something, or whatever it is. Like, it's amazing to see what brings people comfort, and what they can make from that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great release, and particularly in times where we're quite restricted, it's great to have the art, the music as a tool where you can create, or you can draw, or you can write, because it is a movement of energy. Every time you create something, it's a movement of energy, and it's a vehicle in how we are transitioning through emotions.
That's actually a really lovely way of putting it. Yeah, I've never heard it like that before.
Well, thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you're very creative yourself. All the great work that you do.
Oh, I dabble.
I would say a little bit. I'd say you do a lot more than dabble now. Your work is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. We're here to talk about you, though. But yeah, so you have quite a bit of experience in performing your music as well as recording. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I've gigged a lot of covers and stuff, but I've also gigged my original material a lot, just open mics. And I performed in the National Concert Hall, performed at the RT Drama Festival, and I've done a lot of different gigs. BIM Live, I got a chance to perform some of my original material. Also, I was on Near FM there a while back, and I've performed some of my original material. So yeah, I'm always looking at ways to try and get the music out there and accompany other artists, you know, wherever there is music on, or if there's different functions. It's kind of hard at the moment because there are not many gigs at the moment, or there's no gigs at the moment, and I don't know when there will be anything coming back, performing. But yeah, I've been performing since I was 18. I've performed in folk groups, performed in choirs, different bands, different original bands, cover bands to earn money, done a lot of different training, and then I've taught vocals as well. So yeah, I've accumulated a lot of different experiences. And I think because I've been very open-minded, I'm open-minded to music, with, rock music, classical music, pop music, blues, jazz. I'll do anything really, because I think it's better to be open. I think you've more influences and you've more choice then.
Yeah, completely. One of the things that I've noticed doing the show the last couple of weeks is that all of the artists that we've had so far are quite diverse, in that like they'll have their chosen art style, the thing they love doing the most, but then they'll do other things. So, you might have a painter who also sculpts a little bit or makes jewelry. They'll do other things. So, you might have a painter who also sculpts a little bit or makes jewelry, or, and it's just fascinating to see even musicians, they'll say, oh yeah, okay, I gig, but I also write music, I teach music, I do this, that, the other thing, I do choirs. So it's amazing that you can see that, like, because we all struggle. Like it's not a set, oh, this is my job, I get paid 9 to 5 kind of thing, that we do all have to diversify.
Oh yeah, it's all about, I think art and music are never something you really do for money. Well, maybe a bit, but not, you kind of do it more for the love of it, really. But there's nothing more satisfying when you have a picture painted, or you get a design printed on something, or you hear your song back and people like it. That to me is just better than any payment. I have to remember that though when you're very broke and struggling to eat or something,
Well, yeah, the kind of the good feelings that you get from creating something are nice, but also, sandwiches are nice too.
Exactly. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so because you're not gigging at the minute, and I know you said that you're creating at the minute as well, but kind of what else are you doing to keep yourself ticking over while we're still in lockdown?
Well, I've been doing a lot of sewing. I was sewing a patchwork quilt. I've been doing a few designs. I have a few pictures and t-shirts, prints on sale in the Icon Factory in town, and shout out to Virgil Coughlin and Aga in there because they're great. So I do sell a few t-shirts and prints there. So I'm just kind of doing a few more prints for when things open up again. I'm also just working on how I'm going to record Broken Illusion, what kind of, where I'm going to record it. And I haven't been writing music as such during this period because I've 16 songs that I have yet to record. So I've kind of gone into mode of not writing at the moment, but I'm also minding my little nephew Russell at the moment. Yes. And you can probably hear him in the background.
Shout out to Russell.
Shout out to Russell, who's a great artist as well. So yeah, I've been doing a bit of stuff with him during the lockdown. So yeah, it's quite fun. Oh yeah, he has a painting here. I'll just put it up here. But I know this is kind of more of a recording. But yeah,
wow, that's great.
He's interested in painting and art as well, so he's very good.
We definitely have to encourage that. Keep him going.
Oh yeah, no, I've done like summer camps as well with kids over the years, and I just think something like a program for self-esteem. I'd love to do something with kids like self-esteem through art and music, because I feel there's so much technology nowadays. I think art is very grounding for kids. It's very tactile, and I think it's very positive in developing their self-esteem in a healthy way.
Absolutely, yeah. Which brings me to my next point. I see here that you've been involved with the Dublin Simon community as well.
Yeah, I worked as a full-time volunteer in a detox rehab for a whole year, and I was a member of the Simon community for 7 years. I used to do the soup run, and I used to do the social clubs, and then I would gig every year at the Christmas concert, the Christmas party for the homeless. And one year the High Hopes Choir were there and the conductor wasn't there, so I actually had to conduct them for their Christmas concert for the Christmas party meal, which was a bit of an experience because they have been quite, I know you'll see David Brophy doing the choir for the carers now, but he did a choir for the homeless. And it was quite nice to be connected with the High Hopes choir because my dad taught art in school. So it was a nice link. So yeah, no, I did a lot and it really taught me a lot about human nature. Life is very fragile. We're all like, I think people think they kind of, they have the right to judge other people or look down on them, but we're all very fragile. People don't understand this. We're all human beings. We all very fragile. We all have emotions. We all have different things that have happened to us in life, and we all have different breaking points. And it's just a matter of maybe having a breaking point, and maybe there not being sufficient supports. We are all very fragile. So, it can really happen to anybody. And I think people are starting to realize that more than ever over the past couple of years. But when I worked and volunteered in the Simon community, it was kind of more of, like the ordinary Joe wasn't really struggling with homelessness. It was more, people who had addiction issues. But it really opened my eyes to everything, really. And I think, having gone through my own depression and stuff, I was definitely I had more compassion for people who maybe had addictions or couldn't work or had found themselves in, unbelievably hard circumstances, so definitely. But it was a great experience to be involved in something like that. I definitely recommend it. I think it's very good to help, but it's very good for you and for the human soul as well to volunteer. And it really, humbles you as well to some of these people, how much they cope. Like I wouldn't be able to cope, being, some guys used to say they used to spend 4 days in a row going around in wet clothes, walking the streets if they were in the rain constantly. Those kind of experiences just, yeah, so that was great. That was a really positive time in my life, helping out with the Simon community, and I would still at Christmas time go back and do the concerts there.
Yeah, no, it is genuinely heartbreaking what people can go through, and the fact that others can just kind of brush them off,
Yeah, and a lot of it for me is your childhood experiences. I think your childhood, we all have a different childhood, and I think your childhood is your foundation. And some of us have good childhoods, and some of us has mediocre childhoods, and some of us have very troubled childhoods. And sometimes you cope quite well when you're younger, but then as an adult, you might struggle to come to terms with a lot of the cracks in your foundation. So yeah, that can lead to addictions and mental health issues and homelessness. And so I just think, yeah, we just need to kind of look out for each other more, and especially during this time now at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll pick it up a little bit. We don't want to get too grim on the show. I know this stuff happens, absolutely. We'll try and keep it kind of a little bit lighthearted. So it says here that you have sung for a animated film. Do you want to talk about that as well?
I recorded vocals on this animation. It was called Genesis. It was an animation for it's just retelling the story of the Bible. So I did all the backing vocals on that, and I did all the vocals, the female vocals on it, and it was added to an animation, and the work was beautiful. So it was previewed in Poland now a few years ago. But it was mainly, I was just in a recording studio doing vocals. A lot of it was quite classical, and it was lovely to see it all come together along with the animation, because some of the animation was beautiful, some of the artwork. Yeah, so that took, these projects would come in, and Terry Merrick does a lot of them in his studio, in the Origin studio, and I would work a lot with him, and I would work a lot with him on various projects for people that have songs that they want recorded or film backing, different things.
Brilliant. So where is the best place for people to keep up to date with you?
Well, I have a SoundCloud page, and then I have a Facebook page at songstressciara.com, and I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, but mainly my SoundCloud page as well, if anyone wants to drop me a little comment.
Yeah, definitely, and they can hear your music as well.
They can hear all my music on Ciara Moran SoundCloud.
Cool. So for anybody listening at home that's really into music and would like to kind of get into it themselves, what kind of advice could you give them?
But he's just getting into songwriting.
Yeah, songwriting, performing, that kind of thing.
Best advice is to be open. to be open to everything, be like a sponge, always be on the lookout for nice phrases and nice words. And, you know, there is music everywhere. There's beats going on everywhere, and there's lyrics everywhere. They're all around you. You just have to listen. You just have to open up and listen to conversations that people are having, things that are happening in the world. And so externally, you need to be mindful of your surroundings and what's going on, but also internally as well, because there's a lot of stuff going on inside that you need to be aware of, and that can inspire you. So yeah, awareness and being open, and you can learn so much from other people as well, and other musicians, and, you know, listening to different various music. And nature, I spend a lot of time in nature. I think it really rejuvenates you. You know, sometimes when I'm in a very cluttered environment, I can't find that space I need to create, but the sea or nice bit of greenery will just give you the space in your head to create. But the sea or nice bit of greenery will just give you the space in your head to create.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good piece of advice actually as well, is listen to other styles of music, listen to other musicians, see what they're doing, see what you can take from that and apply to your own style.
Yeah, and just be open. Like, don't close yourself off to anything. You know, don't, you know yourself, Katie, just don't close yourself off to anything. Like, I'm not listening to that music, I'm not going here, I'm not doing this. Just be open, and it's just all around you. That's what I would, like, even keep a little notebook of just, you know, pictures that inspire you, and quotes that inspire you, and conversations and little things that happened in your day that made you feel a certain way. These are little things that I do. Even if someone says something and it triggers something in you, write it down. Anything that impacts you in the day.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, just carry a notebook, and when something happens straight away, just record it so you don't forget. Mm-hmm. So is there anything that you would like to talk about? Just record it so you don't forget. Mm-hmm. So is there anything that you would like to talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
Let me see. No, I think we've covered a lot. Just like there's a lot of different artists, you know, creating things out there. You know, I'd like to mention 2 artists, Virgil Coughlin, Aga in the Icon Factory. They, you know, 2 great artists. They're creating loads of stuff. If you can support them. Terry Merrick, always available for recording in the recording studio. And I have another great friend of mine who is a very talented, he writes musicals, Paul Redmond. He wrote a great musical, The Helix, and, you know, maybe check out his work as well. He's a great songwriter. He's always writing songs and musicals and things. So, you know, those are just a few artists out there. I just want to give a shout out to, and of course, yourself, Katie, Mannequin Blue.
Well, yeah, but I'm here every week. It's, you know, so we're fine. You know, we don't need to shout me out or anything.
Yeah.
I'll be here next week. It's all good.
And I want to say just thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Like, it's definitely been a pleasure, and we want to keep the show to support as many artists as we can. This is the whole point. And it wouldn't make sense to exclude any one kind of art style. Like I actually had somebody message me and say, hey, are you taking musicians on the show? And I said, well, music is art, so absolutely, you know. But yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's really great chatting to you. And we will put the links to your social media and your SoundCloud and everything with this podcast so that people can actually find it and see it and hear it and support you, and definitely support Ciara, because she's amazingly talented and her songs are beautiful, and you just need them in your life. You just do.
Oh, thank you, Katie. Thanks so much.
And Ciara has been so generous as to send us her song Smash the Glass to include on the show, so we're going to attach it to the end of this episode for anyone who'd like to have a listen. So if you enjoyed this episode of Doing It for the Exposure and would like to hear more in the future, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at DIFTE Podcast. You can also check out our stream on nerdtoknowmedia.com. We stream weekly on Spotify, SoundCloud and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening.
Smash the glass, 1,000 pieces fall. What's left is one of us inside, trying to stay alive. All we've lost we've lost, we once could cling to. Find the voice the soul can sing to tonight. Trying to stay alive. So fragile if we didn't have to hide. If we didn't have to hide. We have seen life through our own lens. We all see life through our own lens. We've all seen life through our own lens. We all see life through our own lens. Living in a room that's borrowed. Swipe to find the friend we follow tonight. Trying to stay alive. Words we feel we have no right to say. Carbon copied speech gets in the way. Trying to stay alive. So fragile if we didn't have to hide. If we didn't have to hide. We all have seen life through our own lens. We all see life through our own lens. We have seen life through our own lens. We all see life through our own lens. Maybe it's all a lie. We play the parts. Oh, maybe it's all a lie. Maybe it's all a lie. Maybe it's all a lie. We play the parts. Oh, maybe it's all a lie, a lie. Maybe it's all a lie. Just maybe it's all a lie, a lie, a lie.
Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.